the Billboard charts. This week in country music history. The news from Nashville. You're listening to Ben's Country Music Show.
Wonderful Little Big Town and Nightfall, which is the title track from their latest album. And I play that one because Karen Fairchild of Little Big Town was featured on the previous song you heard there from Laurie McKenna, the opening track from our album of the week, which came out again on Friday. It was a great day for new music on Friday. Album called The Balladeer, and the opening song, This Town is a Woman. And we'll talk more about Laurie's album later on in the programme, but I do think it's one of her best. I say that every time, but I think the songwriting is just phenomenal on this new album, The Balladeer. Hello and welcome to this video tutorial series on the Concept Suite, a new innovative teaching space here at the University of Lincoln. This is a concept suite, and over the course of the next series of videos we're going to show you around this space. We have lots of interesting technology in this room, including these Samsung Flip devices. There are 3 of them around the room. So here we are on the right side of the room. We're standing by the entrance to the concept suite, and we have these posters on the wall which show you the different layouts that you can create in the space.
Would you like a cup of tea?
Not now, Grandma, we're looking at stars.
No, dear. Up there, in the sky. That constellation you can see on the right-hand side, that's Sagittarius, and it looks like the shape of a teapot.
Not so sure it does. It looks more like a man with a bow, like a archer.
Well, as your granddad would always say, they call this one the archer. The whole thing put together does look like an archer drawing his bow, but there's a teapot in there somewhere too. I'm sure of it.
The No Chart Sunday on 103 The Eye, playing the widest variety of music for the Vale of Belvoir and Melton Mowbray.
You know, I was lucky to grow up in the early 90s when a lot of the people who were parents at that time were kids of the 60s, and so there was all that children's programming in the 60s that was just fantastic that got re-aired in the UK when we were all children, because, you know, our parents, it was their generation of programming, and so I grew up on all those things, you know, Mr. Ben and the Clangers and Parsley the Lion and Magic Roundabout and all these, as well as all the, you know, the 90s stuff like Postman Pat and those kind of things, and Thomas the Tank Engine. So Ringo Starr, to cut a long story short, is the train man in my house at the moment. Behind me is the Yak 52. She's the Russian primary trainer and fully acrobatic, piloted here today at RAF Waddington by Nigel Wilson. I've heard on the grapevine that you won a little award yesterday for your fly past, is that right?
Yeah, we came third for the best display item out of all the acts here.
This is the Waddington Air Show static display area, and we've got planes all around us, from the Royal Navy to the Royal Air Force, and behind us over in that direction is the Vulcan bomber. And I'm going to go around now and speak to some members of the public who are here today visiting Waddington, just to see what their views are and what they think about the air show.
I wonder what Brian the Lion is doing today. Oh look, Brian is very excited. He's booked a weekend break in London. In Britain, lots of people enjoy going away for the weekend. I suppose it's like a mini holiday. To make the journey to London, Brian will need to travel on lots of different types of public transport. What's that, Brian? You've been reading all about the do's and don'ts for travelling on public transport? Gosh, isn't that smart? You will have a splendid journey.
And now the shipping forecast issued by the Met Office at 17:25 on Tuesday 17th of July. There are warnings of gales in Plymouth, Biscay, Finestray, Seoul, Lundy, Fastnet, Irish Sea, Shannon. The general synopsis at 1300, low, Fastnet, 989 expected white, 992 by 1300 tomorrow. The area forecast for the next 24 hours. 40s Cromarty 4th, east or northeast 4 or 5, occasionally 6 later. Mainly fair, good. And that concludes the shipping forecast issued by the Met Office. Now, 1970 was a seminal year for Cat Stevens, and he produced in that year what would go on to become his career-defining album. Now, he had produced work in the 1960s. He'd worked with big bands and orchestrations and lived only a stone's throw from Denmark Street, where many of the big record companies were based. But it was in 1970 that he produced this record, Tea for the Tillerman. And this was extremely inventive in a number of ways. First of all, the songwriting, of course, defined Stephen as a folk icon, not only in the UK, but around the world, and in America, of course, as well. But also, this album has so many facets to it. Tea for the Tillerman, what does that even mean? And there's a song on the record that explains that, but it's only barely 2 minutes long, the song. Then we have the artwork on the album cover here. This artwork drawn and illustrated by the artists themselves. That was kind of unheard of at the time.
Why are you crying?
It was her, Michael. It was her. She won't stop calling.
The old lady sat in the tower spinning, and the princess asked if she could help, but the princess didn't know how to work a spinning wheel and pricked herself.
Oh God, what are we going to do? What if she tries to come for Rose?
I don't believe it. That woman just can't take a hint, can she?
Next tonight, fencing is one of the world's oldest and safest sports. Originally devised as a protection method for soldiers, it's now being offered as an alternative to football, lacrosse and other sports for daring students at Minnesota State University, Moorhead. These men might look ready to harvest honey from the beehives, but in fact what they're preparing to do is far less dangerous. Fencing has been part of every single Olympics and will again take pride of place at the London 2012 Games next year. Environmental protesters are blockading one of the main Shell petrol stations in Birmingham. They say they're angry at the impact of the oil giant's work on the environment and also the way it treats people in third world countries. And in the city, the 100 share index is down 33 at 61 to 58.
Rwy'n credu bod ein cynllun ni'n barod.
Y cynllun? O na, mae ofn arna I dad.
Paid ag ofni nawr fy mab. Der ymlaen, I ffwrdd â ni.
Oh yeah, well, here we go.
Mae hyn yn gymaint o hwyl.
Now, the American technical stock exchange NASDAQ has launched a takeover bid for the London Stock Exchange. NASDAQ is trying to challenge the dominance of its main rival, the New York Stock Exchange, while here in the UK, health unions have criticised proposals for NHS hospitals to be able to advertise for patients. The Department of Health has warned trusts not to spend too much money on marketing their services. It was around this time that the recording companies started to descend on the rural communities of the southern United States, visiting places such as Johnson City, Tennessee, in an attempt to capture the rural and traditional music that was so much a part of life in the South. These recording sessions would be advertised in the local paper, and word would be spread in churches and schoolhouses, inviting local acts to apply to attend one of the sessions. At this time, it was not unknown for people to travel 800 or 900 miles each way to attend a recording session. Such was the draw of the new medium and the lucrative opportunity for acts to have their music heard by the masses.
But here in a small town, where everybody knows your name, it's hard to escape from local fame or your friends and your family. Remember you like when you were young, and they'll rally round you like you've never been gone. Oh, here in a small town where everybody knows your